Welcome back to Unprofoundly Chill, everybody. I am your host, Joe Navarro. Today, my guest is another comedian. He is hilarious. He's a great guy. And I want to introduce him right now. Everybody, please give it up for Eric Oneacre.
Hey, guys.
How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Thank you for finally being here.
Yeah, this is what, attempt number 5.
No, like the audience doesn't know, but we've been trying to put this together for a while now.
Yep.
Like it's like once we get the date, then something happens,
Yep.
either with you or with me, and then we have to reschedule. But finally, we're here.
We're here.
We're here. So give the people a little information about yourself. How long have you been doing stand-up?
Okay. So altogether, about 4.5 years, with a 9-year gap in between year 1 and 2. But I got Rich Williams' approval to incorporate my first year of doing comedy. So altogether, 4.5.
Really? So
Yeah.
you took a break?
And not by self-choice. The let's just say the first wife wasn't supportive, so I took a hiatus for almost a decade.
How was your first time?
My first time doing comedy?
Yeah, your very first time. If you remember.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll never forget.
Yeah, right. So technically, the first time I ever did any form of stand-up was at my church for a talent show. And I actually did a Flip Wilson joke. So, and I wasn't claiming it as my own. Like, I love Flip Wilson. He was on the Johnny Carson show, and he did a bit called The Ugly Baby. And I just fell in love with that story because it's so not what you're expecting with the end with the punchline. And I did that joke. And if y'all don't know who Flip Wilson is, he is not white. So I did this Flip Wilson joke, and it's so funny. But at the very end, he says, maybe we'll find a banana for your monkey, in regards of this white conductor talking to a black woman with her baby. I had no idea.
Dang.
I was 12 or 13. I had no idea what, slurs or racial innuendo. I had none of that. So I was just like, this is a funny story.
Where were you sheltered?
Cypress, Texas. Yep. So I told my mom, and my mom's friend happened to be there, and she was just like, Eric, I don't think it's appropriate for you to do that last bit. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, the guy sees this ugly baby and thinks it's an animal and says it's a banana. And she just goes, no. And that's the first time I was introduced to racial tones of a joke where, all that jazz. So I changed the punch from.
You're also realizing societal racism.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Cypress, Texas. I had plenty of friends of all parts of the world. I had no idea what racism, prejudice, anything of that caliber, because we were all just friends. We were kids. It was fun until she mentioned that last part is not appropriate. So I changed it to maybe we'll find a bone for your mutt, which is still just as messed up, but it's not.
It is. I feel like that may be worse.
Yeah. Right. There you go. What's worse than racism? A white guy trying to prevent racism. So that was technically the first time, but the first time I performed in front of a crowd for open mic was 2013, the week before Thanksgiving. And I crushed and had a great time because I made the rookie mistake of inviting all of my friends. So I had that false confidence because they were laughing because they know the story that I told.
Okay, I'll say this right now. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
I've seen it where a person is doing stand-up for the first time, brings their friends, and they don't laugh at all.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. So, those people like you.
Yeah. So I did that, and because I brought my friends, I didn't have the experience of quote unquote bombing because I had my friends laugh until the next week, where the host, his name was Joey B. Joey, if you're out there, dude, I miss you. I haven't seen you in 11 years. I hope you're okay. But he invited me back the following week, and this is at Jive. So I've been going to Jive for a long time. And,
yeah, Jive's great. I've been going there for years too.
And he brought me back, even though it was an open mic. And he's just like, yeah.
Wait, so this was how long ago?
This was November of 2013.
Dang, Jive has been around for that long?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, I remember when Clint was running it.
Yeah. My second iteration of stand-up, Clint was the host. And then I took another hiatus for a little bit. And when I came back, Royce was there. And it's been Royce ever since. But yeah, Joey B was the host over a decade ago. And the second time was technically the first time because I didn't have any friends. It was me versus the audience. And they did not laugh at all. and my first heckle happened that night, and I was just telling this story, and all of a sudden this guy literally, instead of heckling from the bar like "you suck," he walked by like in slow motion and he whispered, he's like, "You fucking suck."
That's even worse.
My first heckle was a drive-by.
Well, like I don't think some people understand. Like the stage is an open space. It's like right in front of the bar.
Yeah,
it's in between the venue, like in between everywhere, and there's a jukebox next to it too.
Yep.
So it's just like it's not the most best. It's not the best environment for stand-up, but it's pretty good. I've had some pretty good sets there.
Oh yeah,
with the way everything is set up. The people there are awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, but they can be a bit tough sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He just walked by. You suck.
Oh, dude.
And that's even worse because you have to like actively listen to what he's saying.
Yep. And I was just like, thanks.
And nobody else heard you.
Nope.
He just walks by and that's all they hear is just like thanks.
Yeah. So that went well.
What about your second time?
That was
no. I mean after that,
right?
The time after that.
Not better. Again, this was like fresh Oneacre trying to do comedy, and
well, from the first time to the second time, had you been writing?
Okay, so yes, but because I still am a theater nerd, but at the time I was so like in the theater world that everything I wrote was in the style of like a theatrical monologue because I was trying to give as much detail, write it down verbatim of exactly what happened. So I could tell one story that could last 5 minutes, but there was just a lot of fat and filler and not a whole lot of punch. So I was writing these stories that happened, but I would write them exactly how they happened. So it's just filler, fat, slight punch, filler, fat. And then I would end on like, and then that happened. All right, moving on. Because I didn't understand that you should have, the beginning, middle, and end. You should have punches in between, cut out all the fat, get rid of the stuff that is not necessary, get to the jokes faster. I didn't have that mindset at that time. So the same story that it would take me 5 minutes to tell, I can now tell the same story in like 45 seconds. Just because I was able to trim all the unnecessary stuff.
Yeah, you just get straight to the point.
Correct.
You're getting straight to the point.
Yeah. So my writing process has drastically changed in the past decade of figuring out life stories, what's funny about the story, reverse engineer it to have a beginning, and then kind of fill in a little bit of filler just so it gives it substance.
See, it's funny that you say that because like that has always been something I've been envious of in other comics that can just write like a whole 5 minute story me starting off, I could only write one-liners.
Oh, okay.
I tried writing like long stories, but I would just like cut off in the middle and just be like, okay, this is boring. Screw this.
Are you guys bored? I'm
yeah,
bored.
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen. I would
Yeah.
get bored and I'm just like, whatever. I don't want to finish this.
Right.
You know, but with like short like jokes, I can just quick, fast, easy. That keeps my attention.
Yeah.
I might have ADHD. I don't know. I got to call Amanda Seals and see who like who her doctor is. But it's just, I've always just been like that, just a one-liner guy, just real quick, easy. But because I've been doing stand-up for a minute, I've gotten better at stories, high-arcing stories, figuring out like the beats and stuff like that. Like you said, having punches in between, closing strong, making sure like the high-arcing story like goes all the way around.
Right.
There's a certain climax in the middle. It drops up. Like you understand. Like it took me a minute to understand storytelling, you know, and now that I've like been working on the jokes, now I can craft some jokes in between the story, add more punches, like you said, trim the fat.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's more fun now, because like you said before, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah. Yep. And not only were the not only were the stories very drawn out and way too detail oriented, where it just kind of saturated the story with over detail. I was also, because I've been doing theater for so long, I would memorize everything like it was like a theatrical production. So whenever I would perform, it felt like a performance, opposing to Eric Oneacre telling stupid stories. So everything was very mechanical, and even Victor called me out on it. Like the first time he met me, he's like, "Oneacre, you have some funny stuff, but you sound so robotic." Because I was so memorized that it didn't sound organic. Because it sounded like I was just reading off of a cue card in my brain.
Oh.
But in my theater realm, that's exactly how I was trained and how to memorize and how to perform. But stand-up comedy is such a completely different realm of performance, because it should sound organic and natural and free-flowing and not recited, which is what it sounded like.
But it is.
True.
It is that's the whole trick.
Right.
I guess, just to make it seem like you just thought of it right then and there.
Yes, but it sounded, I agree with him, because once he said it, I listened to some footage and I was just like, yo, I sound artificial. I felt like I sound like Mark Zuckerberg in front of Senate. I was just like, hey guys, how are you? I'm good. Like it did not sound natural. So Victor gave me that good advice of like, just relax and memorize what you need, but try to make it sound less beep, boop, beep. And Victor gave me that advice, and then going through my own catalog of, yes, I have the theatrical experience and stage presence, but I need to work on my cadence and my tone. So that's when I was able to kind of work on pitches and tones and articulation and make it sound more natural, opposing to just straight lines. So
also facial expressions really do matter. I didn't know that beforehand.
Yeah, because as I tell my theater ones, your eyes can tell 1,000 stories just by how the way you look. It can tell a story. So if you see me perform, I'm very I have a lot of facial expressions. I don't just kind of stand there and just go, hey guys, this one time this student called me a cracker. I'm like, yo, what's up? Like I have to be animated, because it just feels natural for me. Because I've always, ever since elementary, I've always been like a performer. I've always been an entertainer, a class clown, all that jazz. So it's been a lot of fun to take that experience and then put it on a stage in front of strangers, and hopefully they laugh. So that's been a lot of fun.
So what drew you into stand-up? Because like, was theater your first love? Was acting your first love?
Actually, photography.
Photography.
Yeah. When I was in third grade, elementary schools just have random magazines floating around for kids to read during their off period or whatever. And I saw this thing called Nat Geo, and on the front cover was a penguin. I never seen a penguin before in my life. I'm like, well, that's a weird looking bird. And I opened it up and I started reading about penguins. And till this day, penguins are like my favorite animal, just because they're they're super chill. There's a variety of them. There's the Emperor Penguin, King Penguin, Rock Harbor, Mackerel, blah, blah, blah. But once I saw photograph by, I'm like, oh, someone actually, obviously they're pictures. I was like, this is cool. My original goal in life was to become a Nat Geo photographer so I could just take pictures of penguins. That's all I wanted to do until 7th grade when I realized that they had a at the time it was called speech. Now it's theater in junior high, but speech. And I was like, that could be fun, express my creativity. I still want to be a photographer. And I did theater in junior high for a year. And then I did photography my sophomore and junior year in high school, which was a lot of fun. Like proper film developing. It wasn't digital. It was a lot of fun.
It was a dark room,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was so much fun. So much fun. Very smelly because those chemicals.
Yeah.
But the process of developing your own film and get to use it on larger, it's so much fun. And then I did theater in high school as well, junior and senior year. So I was able to do 2 fine arts my junior year, which was pretty rare. But the semester before I graduated high school, I was planning on going to Sam Houston State for photography. And the semester before I graduated, Sam Houston decided to not offer that as a degree, but just as an elective. So the entire program was shut down and just made it an elective. I'm like, yo, that's like 6 years of my life I've been like wanting to do photography. I mean, I still could have taken the class as an elective, but I can't,
Yeah. Picture that.
Picture that, yeah. So I just decided, well, I've been doing this other avenue called theater. So I became a theater major at Sam Houston, and that was like really a lot of fun. I'm glad I did theater in college because it was a lot of fun.
See, I was in theater in high school and in middle school. But when I was in middle school, I was a troublemaker. I was in a play one time, and it was like the week of or the week before the play, I got in trouble, and I got kicked out. Luckily, we had an understudy.
Hey, there we go.
But I was mad because I got kicked out of the play. I was
Yeah.
supposed to be like one of the leads. And then when I got to high school, I was just like, okay, well, screw it. I'm going to take this one experience and build on it for the rest of my life. So I'd never really I know I can act.
Yeah.
I have the ability to do it. I just haven't pushed myself into that realm.
Yeah.
And I've always loved movies. Ever since I was a kid, I would watch movies all the time, TV and stuff like that. Like, it's like, I think, do you have any advice for people that want to get into acting?
Yeah. Try.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Same with stand up. Just go up and do it.
Because you'll never know if you like it unless you try it. And there's in my 9 years of teaching high school theater and 20 years of doing this, like I've experienced all kinds of attitudes and mindsets, and the best advice I can give them is try. It's easy as that. Whether you think you can act or whether you have stage fright, but you want to try and get out of that, all you need to do is just put yourself out there and try. The worst thing that can happen is you won't get a part, but at least you tried. You got an audition under your belt,
Yeah,
which is always fun. And for classes, if I could tell a story real fast about.
we're almost done. I'm just kidding.
Actually, we haven't been recording this entire thing.
What if we weren't though?
Well, Joe, attempt number 6 will be next week.
This podcast is actually a figment of my imagination. None of these things work. Like, I'm just doing this because I want
Is
to.
this paper mache?
We're in an insane asylum right now.
What is this, Shutter Island? Nice.
You have to find the killer now. You're the main. You're the main character.
Wait, that means I'm Leo. That means I'm the bad guy. I know how this ends. Like how it became your figment to me being a murderer.
Hey, you trained for this, okay?
All right, Joe. So my second year teaching, I had a student. I don't think she'll mind me mentioning her name because she's succeeding and doing very well. Her name's Kat, and she was in theater 2. So she already did a year of theater, but for whatever reason in theater 2, she had this almost like a Dear Evan Hansen crippling anxiety where she couldn't perform, but she was somehow passed through theater 1 and took theater 2. So obviously she wanted to, but her nerves and anxiety and stage fright wouldn't allow her to.
Her automated response was just to like shut down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know how theater 1 was for her, but for theater 2, like the first day of school, I always have like an icebreaker. I'm like, all right, get up on stage, tell me about yourself, 3 interesting facts, go. She couldn't do that about herself. Hi, my name's Kat. And then she shut down on stage. And I'm just like, all right, Kat, do me a favor. Turn around. What? Turn around. And she turned around. I was like, close your eyes. She goes, okay. I go, now, Kat, do me a favor. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. I said, Kat, just talk. Kat, just talk. Hi, my name's Kat. I like dogs. And she just started talking because she realized that, A, she wasn't facing her peers. So she didn't have that being judged mindset. Mm-hmm. And her eyes were closed, so she visually couldn't see where she was. She couldn't see her environment, so she didn't feel like she was on stage performing. And she just started talking, and she told us 3 interesting facts. And when she was done, I said, Kat, do me a favor. Turn around, but keep your eyes closed. She turned around. Her eyes were closed. I said, Kat, on the count of 3, open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. And she opened her eyes, and she realized that it wasn't that bad. All of her peers were going to do the same thing. And she just had this enormous sigh of relief that she finally realized that performing in front of your peers isn't that scary. Mm-hmm. Even though her eyes were closed, but there's a whole lot of methods I teach students to get over stage fright. And that was day 1. And by the end of the school year, so 9 months later, she went from this very nervous, social anxiety riddled individual to being voted the best actress in that class.
Wow.
Yeah. And when her name was announced at the theater banquet that she won, oh, the look she gave me of like gratitude and joy and just complete dismay that she won as a teacher, I'll never forget that moment. Because she just looked so, oh man, I love telling that story to all my theater 1s where,
Wow.
yeah. So, like I said, if there's any advice I can give you, it's just try. Go have fun.
What, did she get like a trophy or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you keep it in your office?
I take her trophy, right? Yeah.
We're just going to hold that here for you.
Kat, I'm proud of you. I'm going to take that for self-reference later.
No, but that's a great story, man.
Yeah.
But that also, like, it's interesting because, like, when I first started stand-up, I had very terrible stage fright.
Okay.
Just like Kat. Like, when I would get on stage, I would shut down.
Yeah.
I would start mumbling. I would start forgetting everything. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
And it took me, like, 2 years to get over that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So 2 years of your 6 was just kind of overcoming
That. And then the next year or 2 after that was learning how to write a joke.
Okay.
And then the last couple, like, year or 2 has been understanding how to present everything.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I'm just going through, like, levels
Yeah.
throughout my whole career.
And for you, what was your process of overcoming the stage fright within those 2 years?
Lots of alcohol. I couldn't go on stage without a drink or 2 in me.
All right.
Yeah, but it was like one of those things where the muscle memory
Right.
of me just going out every night and just reciting these things just came over. I think after that, I did an open mic at the Improv.
Okay.
Sober, and because I told myself I didn't want to drink anymore. and I did it, and it went great. I got like a little applause break in between one of my jokes.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh, okay, so I can do this, you know. But it was just like overcoming the start to then was a great accomplishment. I'm way better than I was at that moment now, you know. But still, it's just every time I get on stage, I'm fighting stage fright, and people don't understand that.
Yeah.
They don't understand how hard it is for me. It's a juxtaposition that I'm in, that I put myself in.
Okay.
I have terrible stage fright. I get on this stage and I get in front of people, but I love it so much that I force myself to do it and overcome that every time.
Yeah.
Like every time I go on the road, it feels like I'm doing stand-up for the first time. And then when I get that first big laugh, I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. My training kicks in from going out to these mics and shows here. Everything just comes back, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm a comedian. I can do this.
Right.
It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah. It also sounds like you overcame alcoholism.
That too. Yeah. And drug addiction.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And bad parenting.
And we're okay.
Yeah. I just go through all these things.
Funny you mentioned that.
I don't know, man. It's just I like stand up. I love stand up, but it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like what? So you, from your first time to the second time, you were just like, were you thinking about it a lot?
No. From the first time at Jive to the second time with the drive-by heckle, there's only 7 days, and I was just like, well, the story I did the first time killed because my friends were there. I was like, I'll just do the exact same thing, which was probably part of the downfall because it was, again, like the same set I just did 7 days ago, a 5-minute story that didn't have a whole lot of punch. And so there wasn't a lot of thought process within that first week because I just did the exact same thing. And then once I got heckled and no one laughed, I feel like a lot of people would have just been like, all right, well, that sucked. I don't want to ever go through that feeling again and give up and just move on to something else. But I was just like, all right, they didn't laugh. They weren't present for that story. So that's when I started kind of doing a lot more like self-deprecation, where it wasn't like you had to be there because it happened to another friend. It's more like whether you were there or not, maybe you can relate to the stupidity that I went through, which is why I talk about, you know, being a teacher. Everyone's had teachers, whether you are a teacher or you had a teacher who is an educated idiot. Like, that's just what I like to call myself. I have a college degree. I have a high school diploma.
I feel like there's a lot of people there.
I'm a playful idiot, and it's okay. Yeah. So, that there was not a lot of thought process between 1 and 2.
No.
But now, every time I go up, there's times where I do, you know, the same set a few weeks in a row just so that way I can fine tune or maybe find this worked, and then I can plug something new or add a different inflection or what have you. But just thinking about my life, and now that I'm a father, and just my teen years of just being an adolescent idiot. So there's so much Rolodex in my brain. It's just a matter of finding what works, and I need to figure out, will this be relatable to the audience? Because I have like a dictionary or an encyclopedia of stupid stuff that I find funny, but it's moments where it's like you had to be there, and formulating that into you had to be there into a very relatable. I find that a little bit more difficult because I'm trying to, 4.5.
So in that you had to be there, is it like a moment that you just can't believe to be true?
Yes and no. It's not necessarily a moment of truth. It's just more like I have one of my best friends, Josh. he is the definition of just like bad luck in the most good way. I love him to death. He's like a brother to me. But in our youth at Playhouse 1960, which is a community theater in Cyprus, he would at least 3 or 4 times a performance somehow get a nut shot, which was not part of the show.
Just what during the
just the most
performance?
the most random things.
Were you on stage like reciting your stuff and you're just like nut shot?
No. So there was we were hey Josh, what's that?
Oh, okay.
Got him. So there were times where we would be backstage in a wing, and because it's a community theater, there's extension cords and a backstage work area. Well, there was an extension cord that was just kind of hanging down, and someone decided to be funny to just kind of fling it around. Well, the plug part whipped around and just hit Josh, and he just went, oh. So just stupid. Or we'd be doing a show and someone threw a tennis ball off stage and they hurled it and it popped up and hit Josh square in the testicles.
He just keeps getting hit in the nuts.
Yeah. And it was never intentional. He just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Does this still happen to him?
Oh yeah. Me and my other best friend Vince joke about every time you hear like the horn of Gabriel from the heavens, you're just like, yo, Josh is about to get destroyed. Because it just happens so often. It was so funny. Oh, I miss those days.
No, that's hilarious.
Yes.
Oh, man. So, from when you started to now,
yes,
how much of a difference do you see in yourself, in terms of just like your stage presence, your jokes, your writing, all that stuff?
I definitely feel like I've improved from year 1 to year 2 when I got back into it, and
was there like a huge improvement from year 1 to year 2?
Yes. Yeah. So,
because I feel like that theater background, the acting background, helps you so much in terms of like stage presence.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's for a lot of open micers, like that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Knowing how to be comfortable on stage is
Yeah.
something you should learn before like you can actually like dive into all the specifics of just like material and joke writing and all that.
Yeah. Yep. Because the stage presence, the theater training, the performing on stage since I was a kid basically, that definitely helped. But I could have all the stage presence in the world, but if my material doesn't work, people aren't that forgiving, especially in Houston. They're pretty cutthroat audience when it comes to material. Or I could be as animated and on stage and have charisma, but if my jokes aren't working, they're gonna kind of see through the facade.
Are you talking about like the way you tell them, or
yeah, like because you mentioned the stage presence and all that. As for my writing, I've definitely done like a drastic shift in how I go about my writing, because every joke I tell is 100% true. It's happened to me. There's a few jokes where I mention a friend or a student, which I never, drop names of the students out of respect. But
yeah, Kat.
Oh yeah. Well, she.
That was a good story.
Yeah.
That was a positive story.
Which is why you'll never hear me say it on stage, because it's a good story. Yeah. What's up, Kat? No, but like my writing style has definitely shifted for the better for me, just the way I tell it, because it went from formulated play format, recited, memorized, done, and now it's definitely more free flowy sounding. It doesn't sound nearly as mechanical or robotic. I've definitely developed a lot of fun subverse shenanigans where the audience isn't expecting, and then I just subvert their expectations by shifting it. Which
that's
is
the switch.
Yeah. Which is a lot of fun, mainly with my teacher material, talking about white kids calling me crackers and all that fun. Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
So delivery is important.
Delivery, yes.
Yeah, because I think if you deliver a terrible joke well, it can get a pop.
Yeah.
But if you deliver a good joke terribly, it just won't go off.
Yes. And I've always been a fan of dramatic pauses, which will help with the delivery as well, because that way it doesn't feel like you're rushing through. You take time to let the audience simmer on what you just said, and then you come in and you just kind of give them that last bit of detail that they're waiting for. You have them in the palm of your hand, and you just hit it, and all of a sudden they just, either erupt or they applaud or they sigh or they groan, depending on what kind of joke you're telling. But yeah, it's a lot of fun with the cadence, the delivery, even the inflection, because you could tell a really detailed story, but if you say it with like Ben Stein monotone, it's not going to go well, because you're just saying stuff that, kind of like what you mentioned earlier about telling your set where you just get bored of your own joke. You're like, you know what, I'm just going to scratch this.
That's a true thing. There have been times where I am on stage and I'll tell a joke and it'll get a pop.
Yeah.
But it only gets a pop because I've done it so many times and I know how it works, not because I really want to say it.
Right.
You
just kind of get like autopilot for certain jokes, because you know it works. You know where the pop's gonna get.
You know what type of infliction to do.
Yeah.
You know where to pause. It's just the mechanics. I've learned the mechanics of like how to do comedy, and it gets a little bit easier. But knowing or finding out what I want to talk about has always been a big thing for me.
Yeah. Yep. And the past 2 years that I've been really diving into like the teacher material, I've been trying to formulate like a beginning, middle, and end, whether it's a 5-minute set, a 10-minute set, 15, 30, 45. I always I still have the mentality of play format where there's a beginning, middle, and end, where each set should kind of flow naturally into the next segment. Mm-hmm. Which I love doing, because I love telling stories. But if you start by like saying, I start with my material by saying, this one time a student called me a cracker, and then you find out it was a white kid, and then if I would go from there right into like a Schlitterbahn story that I talk about, there's no connection to, okay, you just talked about a white kid calling you a cracker, and then we find out you're a teacher, and then you shift into the Schlitterbahn story where, I always
wet cracker,
right? Yeah, dude, that was such a weird day in school. It was literally.
Wait, that actually happened?
Oh yeah, the third day before we got out for summer break.
What grade was it?
This kid was a senior.
He was a senior.
Or no, sorry, he was 16, so he was a sophomore or junior.
Yeah,
and he from my perspective, he wasn't rehearsing for his final. And I just said his name, and I was like, hey, man, could you stop talking to that group and go rehearse? And for whatever reason, with only 72 hours left of school, he decided to lose his mind on me. And are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah, we can swear.
All right. And he literally looked at me. He's just like, man, whatever, Mr. Oneacre, you cracker-ass bitch. And I was just like, what?
Okay, I need some background of this kid. So, what did he look like?
White.
just
a white looking kid.
Suburban white?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Which made it even funnier, because I was like, yeah.
What was your reaction?
I was just like, what?
Was it out of nowhere for you?
Yes. Because
really?
I wasn't overly aggressive. I mean, I might have been stern because I'm a teacher. That's kind of my job, to be stern with these students, so that way they rehearse and do their final. But I wasn't like, hey, man. I was just like, hey, buddy, I need you to rehearse for your final. And all of a sudden he just went off and called me a cracker-ass bitch. And I was just like, what? He's like, "You heard me, Mr. Oneacre," and he stormed out of my
At
classroom.
least he didn't call you a bitch ass cracker.
Yeah. Crazy what happens when you switch that order.
Right?
Yep. It's like that Bill Burr thing.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly that joke.
This fucking Asian guy.
Whoa! This Asian motherfucker, it just slips off the tongue easily.
He's talking about hooking up with people's moms. Yeah. But yeah, and he got way overly pissed than he should have, and he stormed out, and I actually walked out. I was like, "Hey, come back in. We got to rehearse." And he flipped me the bird, and he was right in front of the attendance office, who saw everything. They're just like,
huh?
yeah. Oh, it was so, and I didn't.
Did you write him up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he didn't show up for his final. Oof. So he got a 0 because he was so mad at me for me wanting him to succeed by rehearsing that he just forfeited his.
He wasn't mad at you. It was probably something personal in his life.
Probably.
Yeah. No, because like it sucks to say this, but I have kind of done the same thing to my teachers when I was younger in high school. And it wasn't because I didn't like them or they were too strict or whatever. It was just I was going through a lot of personal stuff and I didn't know how to handle everything.
Yeah.
So, or he might just be a dick.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
He might just be a jerk. You never know. I hope he's doing great things right now.
Yeah.
What if he's like a huge actor and you just didn't know it?
Hire me?
Right when you get on set. Oh shit, cracker ass bitch. You bitch ass cracker.
Oh.
What's up, my bitch ass cracker?
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
That was such a weird day.
But like, is that the craziest thing that's happened while teaching for you?
No. That's just
one instance.
Yeah, that's just a fun opener to.
That's a fun.
Yeah, because it leads into the.
You want to hear the time when I was called a cracker ass bitch?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Because that's when I subvert their expectation, and then I let them know that I'm a teacher. Because if I were to wordage in the order of events, if I was like, this one time as a teacher, this white kid called me a cracker ass bitch, I just told you the entire premise without giving you a punch.
Yeah, but people are like enthralled and they want to hear more now.
Right.
They want to hear the story.
But if I switch it and say, this one time I was called a cracker ass bitch by a 16-year-old white kid, this is my way of letting y'all know I'm a teacher. And then obviously there's pauses and cadences and inflections, but that switch of the order makes a night and day for the audience to be enthralled, I guess. Engaged, yeah.
Yeah, attentive, listening.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll admit, I've done that opener line so many times, but I it works, and it is super fun because people aren't expecting this kid to be 16 or white, and then to hit him with the teacher line. They're not expecting that. They just think it's some punk kid who just called me a cracker ass bitch
walking down the street.
Yeah. Nope. It was in my classroom, third day before we got out of school. So that's why the order of my opener has always been that, because I used to, before I did the World Series of Comedy 3 years ago, I actually started off by saying, I don't know if y'all can tell by looking at me, but I am a teacher, and then I was called a cracker ass bitch. So I already told them I was a teacher, and then I did a weird segue into, and I used to ask for audience participation until our good friend Sean Sorley kept ruining it intentionally at Jive, because I would say, I don't know if y'all can tell by looking at me, but I am and I would leave it up to the audience, and most of the time they're like, white, gay, or whatever. and because Sean and I are such good friends, Sean would always just go, a teacher. And it just ruined. I'm like, yeah, that's right, Sean. I'm a teacher. Anyways,
Yeah.
and I stopped doing the audience participation type thing for, but
I've seen other comics like try to involve the audience, and I mean it's 50-50 sometimes.
correct, yeah. So I decided to switch up how I went about that one specific, just the opening first sentence. Thanks, Sean. I love him to death. Yeah.
Shout out Sean Sorley. I had him on a podcast before.
Nice. What up, Sean? Yeah. Oh man, and I bring that up every now and then, and it's so much fun. Every time at Jive, teacher. Thanks, Sean. And then you would just hear him laugh.
Cracker ass bitch.
Come on, Sean.
That would be funny if you said that.
Right.
Oh, but what's another crazy like teaching story that you got?
So, I had a student. Ironically, we'll talk about a segue. The student's name was Sean, and he approached me and he threatened to vandalize my car. Idiot. This is 7 years ago, and I have no idea what this kid's up to nowadays. But he just walked up to me. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Oneacre, let's just say you go outside and hypothetically your car was a different color. What would you do?" And I just looked at him. I was like, "Is that a threat?" And he's just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Cool." And then I went outside and my car wasn't painted a different color, and I got mad at him for lying to me. I was more mad at him about.
Wait, was he asking you a hypothetical, or was he like
Well,
legit saying like, "Hey, what if your car was like?"
It was phrased in a hypothetical, but his inflection was like, "I'm gonna paint your car," because he.
Oh,
This kid was so. I have no idea what his household environment was like, but he had no respect for authority. He had no respect for adults. I have no idea.
he was just a bad kid.
He was probably fed with a silver spoon. His parents saw no wrong in him, but he was just a weird, entitled bully, not towards the students, but like his teachers. So I just decided to be stern, and I would make him do work, and he would get so flustered. I'm like, "Dude, you're 18. You're going to graduate. Like, why are you being..." Anyway, so the way he worded it, it was a hypothetical, but his voice was like, "I'm going to spray paint your car. You're going to hate it." But when I went outside, he didn't spray paint my car, but the next morning, this kid is so stupid. He actually spray painted on the wall of the school I taught at, right by where my car was parked, and he literally spray painted "Fuck Mr. Oneacre," but then he signed his name. Yep. So that was so.
Maybe he really wanted people to know who did it. Maybe
Well,
he was just like, "Well, they won't know it's me."
I'll tell you this: Harris County deputy sheriff found out real fast.
Ooh, defamation of property.
Oh yeah, he was arrested.
Yeah,
He was arrested, and I never saw him again. So that was a fun one. I had a student threaten to fight me because I asked him to read, which was super funny.
What?
Oh yeah.
Because you asked him to read?
Yep, and he was this is my first year teaching, so 9 years ago. This is when textbooks were still a thing in schools.
Are they not anymore?
Nah, it's all electronic.
Digital?
Yep,
It's all
digital. Yep.
Wow.
So we're doing popcorn reading where you read a paragraph, blah blah blah.
Blah, 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 yeah.
And when it got to his turn, he was just like, "Mr. Oneacre, I'm not going to read." To be fair, it was my first year. I was pretty much like a dick, and I was just like, "Oh, you don't want to read, or you don't know how to read?" He's a senior. He knows how to read. He's taken exams to get to a senior level.
He's there for a reason.
Yeah.
He got there somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
But I was just like, "So you don't want to read, or you don't know how to read?" And he just softball lob that thing. And he just went, I know how to read. I go, oh, cool. Prove it. And he's just like, I just don't want to read. I was like, all right, if you want to embarrass yourself in front of your friends by not knowing how to read, that's okay. I'll read it for you. And he's just like, Mr. Oneacre, I don't want, I'm like, hey, why are you getting, like, I was not my proudest moment as a teacher, but it was my first year. And all of a sudden he stood up and he's just like, hey, fuck you, Mr. Oneacre. I'm like, hey, whoa. And then we were sitting on risers in the black box. And he was on the third level when he walked down. And this kid, I'm not the tallest person. I'm like 5'11", 6 foot on a good day. This kid was like 5'4". So he's yelling at me by doing this, by pointing up at me and just going, fuck it. And I'm like, I was almost like a condescending father to be like, oh. But he was so mad that I asked him to read that he literally like stormed out of my classroom backwards while like flicking me off. And all of a sudden he wasn't paying attention. And he slammed into the door frame. And just to be a prick, I was just like, hey, there's a door frame there. And all of a sudden I just hear, fuck you, and the door closed. Oh, it was so funny. And then, he got a class change, and I never saw him again.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well,
Just from that one moment.
Oh, yeah. Which, hey, fine by me. He was in ROTC, so all I had to do if he came back was just email his CO or the instructor of the ROTC, and he would have gotten straightened up real fast. But I didn't get that opportunity.
No, he got out of there quick. You knew.
And I'm honestly a pretty chilled, laid back teacher. Yes, I have my rules and discipline, but I try and just be kind of level-headed and see where they're coming from. But if you're going to be a dick, I'm a professionally trained actor and an improv. Like, I know how to rebuttal real fast, and it will make your head spin. And these kids are just like, whatever. And I just hit them back with a zinger. They're like,
do you know how to read?
Right. I actually called out a group of students a few years ago because they were just so... They acted dumber than they really were, which is super annoying when you know they're smart, but they act like idiots. And I got so mad that I literally just said, do y'all even know what a pencil sharpener is? And they're just like, yeah. I was like, good. Because I was so mad that they were not utilizing the pencils I provided. And they were just like, Mr. Oneacre, this pencil's dull. And I'm like, all right, go sharpen it. They're like, with what? I'm like, what do you mean with what? How do you not know what a... I was so stupid. So dumb. Yeah, and there's many other...
No, but that's a true thing. Like, kids, I feel like some kids nowadays don't know exactly what a pencil sharpener is at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know? They use pens and like computers and stuff like that. It's different now.
It is.
Like you said, they don't use actual like physical textbooks anymore. So
correct.
Yeah, when I was coming up, there was nothing but the book.
Yep.
And you would open up different pages, and it would be like used textbooks. So like there would be pictures, which is like go to page 112.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, go to page 76, and you like see different things that people drew on there.
Yep. It's like the book of Tom Riddle from Harry Potter.
Yeah. But that was part of the fun too, of finding out like the used textbook. It was like, okay, what did they draw in here? Yep. Boobs. Okay.
I love this class. Yeah. Yeah. God.
That's so funny. No, because it's just like hearing these stories of like these bad kids just reminds me of me when I was in high school and how bad I was.
Yeah.
Because I was one of those kids that you hated that was smart but acted dumb. And my teachers just, they tolerated me sometimes, but I knew that they were just tired of me.
Right.
Yeah. Now, as an adult, I feel terrible. But back then, I was just like, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, you were a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a kid.
Yep.
Just living my life. Calling teachers by different names.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But how does that, like, with you being a parent and a teacher?
Yeah.
Like, what do you tell your kids, like, or do you like help them understand, like, hey, just be nice to your teachers, understand that they're trying to do their job, they're trying to be professionals?
Do I tell my students or do I tell my kid?
Your kids or your students, either one.
I I mean, both. My son is only 3.5, so his mindset is a 3.5-year-old. Obviously, when he gets older, we'll instill more. Like he's already a very respectful kid because that's how I was brought up. That's how my wife was brought up. So he'll say sorry, thank you, yes ma'am, no ma'am, or whenever he'll sneeze, he'll say he'll look at me and just go. And then, my wife and I are just like, oh, God bless you. And he'll just go, that's right. So he's a very smart 3.5-year-old. Or like whenever he'll burp, he'll just go, excuse me. And I go, good job, buddy. He goes, I know. I wonder where he gets this mind. But obviously we don't cram respect down his throat. It just happens organically.
It sounds like he's got a lot of confidence.
Dude, and he has such an effective laugh for 3.5. It's like a belly roll chuckle, and it is so adorable. Where it just makes my wife and I laugh because he's laughing, and it's so good. As for my students, the thing about like in today's society compared because you're only 2 or 3 years older than me, so we were in the same kind of education system. It was such a different experience when I was in high school, which was 03 to 07, compared to now. So whenever I try and instill, respect and, I lay down these rules in my classroom. And to be fair, some of the kids do still have that respect attitude they were brought up with, or they went through a hard time, and then respect was just kind of given because of the events that took place or something. So there's some form of respect amongst some of these kids. But there are so many students that I've dealt with in the 9 years that either, as you mentioned, they're going through some personal times, and then they use their teachers as a scapegoat or escapism, so that way they can take out their anger or frustration on a teacher, opposing to, having a fight with their parent because something happened. So the education system is so interesting today because a lot of the time, sadly, that they'll kind of side with the student. Whereas when we were students, it was more like the education system had the teacher's side until something. But it's been primarily
like you would always get in trouble.
Yeah.
You would always not. And nowadays, a parent says something and just like, okay, bye.
Yep. Yep.
Teacher's gone. There's a new sub.
Yep.
They're trying to find a replacement.
And it's so sad because obviously, there's certain moments where you want to pull a student aside and just be like, is everything okay? Which I've done a few times, and most of the time they just, yeah, I'm fine. They don't want to talk about it because whether they're pride or an ego or they don't have trusting, or they have trusting issues with an adult because of what's going on at home. They feel like they can't share.
If I can't trust the adult here, how am I going to trust you?
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's a lot of moments where respect is lost. And it's so unfortunate because if I did some of the stuff that my students do when I was a student, there would be a phone call to my father, and when I would get home, my mom would just tell me, go wait upstairs for your father. Mm-hmm. And I knew, because how I was brought up, that I messed up. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. And then, obviously I would either, depending on what age I would either, get a spanking or get grounded or get a lecture or something, because that's what parents are supposed to do. They're supposed to instill this mindset of being respectful to others. Yeah. And so whenever students aren't, I've done so many home phone calls where the parents are just like, all right, I'll talk to them.
Really? It's just like,
Yeah. And it's sad because obviously some of these parents, they're working 2-3 jobs. They don't they're not necessarily home a lot for their kids. So the kids kind of have to mature their own way, but then they're influenced by friends, and their parents aren't really there to kind of be like, I don't know if you should hang out with these kids, and then they get influenced, and then they bring that into the classroom, and then they're just disrespectful, and they have friends in the classroom who are, fueling the fire. And, I'm trying to control everything, and all of a sudden someone says like one-off comment, which makes them laugh. And then the poor kids who are there who want to learn, whether theater or tech theater, they're just like looking at me, and I'm just like, all right, well, and then I'll go make some phone calls or email some parents, and the same reaction of, all right, I'll deal with it when I get home. Yeah. And I don't blame the parents, because they're trying to take care of their family, but at the same time, the kids are just let loose to do kind of whatever. And it's...
Yeah, I'm not in the education profession. This is just my opinion. It's the parents' fault. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it starts at home.
Yes, and there's different levels of that. Because
just look, I get it. They're working like multiple jobs. They have a mortgage. They have a family to take care of. But if you're going to have a kid, you got to be more in tune with like what's happening in their lives.
Yeah.
Because like my parents weren't like that, and I was a wild child. My parents were just like, oh, okay, I'll talk to him. My dad was working all the time. Mom was working all the time.
Yeah.
Too busy to do that. And I would get in trouble all the time. And I'd be out in the streets after school just walking and just like, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Look, it's just like, it's not completely the parents' fault, but they should have more say so in what their kid does, or know what they're actually doing out here.
Yeah, and to kind of bring it back to a little bit lighthearted, my favorite moments, other than the phone calls or emails, which is super funny, because there's been times where a student is on my class roster, but they never show up.
That was me.
So I would get emails from parents saying, why does my son have like a 12 for the semester? And I'm like, I've never met your kid.
But he still has a 12, not a 0.
I mean, he was probably there like day one.
It's on a scale.
Yeah. So day one, he got like a participation icebreaker 100. And then for the next 4.5 months, nothing. And I'll get parent emails saying like, why is my son failing? I'm like, I don't know. I'd never met him. Oh my God. And if I did, it was for like 54 minutes 5 months ago. I don't even know what your kid looks like. And I've gotten a lot of those, and they're just like, and sadly, their parents have no idea that their kids are skipping.
Okay. Was it first period, that 12? The kid that got the 12?
No. This kid was, if I remember correctly, like 5th period. So right after lunch, or right before lunch. So he would skip, go to lunch, skip class.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
yeah,
and that's happened quite a few times where the kids just lie to their parents of, oh, I was in class, but I was marked absent even though I was there, and the kids don't know, or the parents don't know who to believe, and then I get an email, and I'm like, I can prove to you they have not been here. Just look at the grade book.
Yeah.
And you'll see exactly why. And they're like, oh, okay. And then like an hour later, they're like, hey, Mr. Oneacre, sorry about that last email. Yeah.
So in your mind, like when you see that, a child that just doesn't show up, what are you thinking?
One of two things. One, they don't like the class, so they'd rather skip than try. Or two, something happened. Something happened. Yeah, because I've had students in the past who were brought up, on the streets, and they were part of gangs, and they were part of drug deals gone wrong, and there's all kinds of situations where whenever a student who is affiliated with that kind of activity isn't there, you start letting your brain wander of like, please let them be alive.
Yeah.
And it's sad because these kids are 14 to 18. You're like, please let them be alive. And then they'll show up the next day. You're like, cool. where were you yesterday? Oh, my mom was sick. I had to stay home with my brother and sister. Be like, okay, cool. Yeah, because I had a student my 5th year teaching, really sweet kid. Him and I bonded after this moment. Like I said, the first day of school, I do like an icebreaker, and he was very honest with his 3 facts. And he gets up, and again, great kid. He probably won't mind that I say his name, but out of respect, I won't say it, but really sweet kid. And he just goes up, he goes, hello, my name is, and all of a sudden he starts listing off his 3 facts. He's like, I like smoking marijuana, I sell marijuana, and I was in a drive-by gone wrong for a drug deal, and I got shot in the calf. And then he just walked away and sat down, and we're like, hold on. and he was a senior, he was 18, and I was like, dude, get back up here. And he's just like, what? And I was like,
You're the coolest kid I've ever met.
right. I was like, all right, I think I can speak on behalf of all of us. You said you were shot by a drive-by for a drug deal gone wrong? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how old were you? He's like, 12. I'm like, and that's when it clicked that this kid was in such an environment that at 12 years old, he was part of a drug deal gone wrong that resulted in him getting shot as a 12-year-old. And it like broke my heart until he started laughing. He's like, yeah, that shit sucked. And then he lifted up his pant leg and he showed us his calf and he had the bullet scar and it was bananas. And I was like, all right, you know what? We're going to have fun with this. And this was a tech theater class. So I was like, everyone get out a sheet of paper. We're going to draw and recreate the drug deal gone wrong. and he looked at me with like disbelief. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're the first student I've ever had who's actually been shot and survived. And he's just like, all right. And he sat down next to me and we were like AGT judge panel, and they would walk up and show us their interpretation of the apartment complex and where the car was and the street light, and he would critique them, and he had the best time. And he was just like, yo, the car is right, but that street light is not what it looked like. And the apartment complex was a 2-story, not a 3-story. And he was like, next. Like, he would dismiss these kids. Oh, and then him and I, like I said, bonded. And that was 5 years ago. Until this day, we still keep in touch every now and then. And he's actually a manager of a car wash. So he got out of whatever he was in, and now he's actually thriving, which makes me happy. But, it was just hearing him be so blunt about his experience. And then he was laughing and smiling, and he's like, no, that's not what the car looked like, you idiot. You're just like, yo, this kid got shot at 12 years old. Yeah, he's a good kid.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's so funny.
He's 23 now. It's crazy.
The car was green, not red.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You just made a whole like detective agency right there.
Yeah. Right.
These kids learned more than just theater that day.
Right. They learned how to not do a drug deal.
Well, how to survive too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's so funny. Oh my god. See, I was in not in that environment, but I was like around people like that when I was younger. Like the worst thing that I did was like skip school. Like I would always skip like first period.
Yeah.
Because I would get up late and I would miss the bus.
Okay.
So then I would take the metro. But then the metro would run a little bit late and I would get bored sitting down. So I would walk like a mile to the other bus stop.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I hated school. I would always miss first period. So you saying that other story about the kids not showing up and getting a 12, I'm just like, oh, that was me.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I would like get in trouble and talk back to teachers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In middle school, I remember my teacher. She was a science teacher, and it was Miss Rogers.
Okay.
Like very nice lady. She was mad at me because I either said or did something, and she was like, "What's your mom's phone number?" And I gave her some phone number or whatever, right?
The rejection hotline.
Well, she calls it. It rings, she hears somebody on the other line, and she hangs up. She goes like, "Boy, that's Pizza Hut's number." And I was just like, "Yeah, that is." I memorized Pizza Hut's number. That's how much of a big kid I was too, that I memorized Pizza Hut's number. Because back in the day, you had to memorize every number. You didn't have like cell phones like now.
Yep.
Where nowadays I cannot. The only number I know is my own.
Right.
That's the only number I can remember now.
Mine is my mom's.
Oh, her actual. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I know mine because I'm not an idiot, but yeah, the only phone number I know is my mom's cell phone number.
Yeah, but back in the day, I knew like thousands of numbers.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Because you had to. Because if you got lost and you didn't know a number, then you're lost.
Yep. Well, I guess I live here now.
Yeah. Oh man. Let's see. So, from being here in Houston,
Yes.
from going out to these open mics, what is there anything that stays in your mind? Anything that you've learned? Anything like you feel like you've grown from or have learned from?
Definitely. What I've learned from is it's okay to fail. I'll tie things into theater all the time, but it's okay to fail. It's okay to go up and bomb, so that way you know, hey, this doesn't work, or how can I reword it or
Bomb
tweak
with
it.
a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see open micers nowadays. They're out there, they tell their jokes, but it feels like they're not learning anything from the situation.
Yeah.
They're just telling the joke. They're like, oh, it didn't work. Okay, I'll just tell it again next time, and hopefully it will.
Right. Maybe with a different audience.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is it's okay to fail. And as someone who's been doing theater for as long as I have my fair share of ill performances. So learning that is perfectly fine. That way you can go home, listen to your set if you recorded, figure out where the joke you were going for kind of fell flat, reword it, retweak it. Sorry. And then what I've grown from is definitely the knowledge of other comics. So growing personally by watching other local Houston comics or out-of-state comics and just kind of watching their style and how they captivate audiences. I've kind of grown from how they go about and kind of make a style of my own based on that. So it's like a self-growth by being influenced. And I'm not ripping off anyone's style. I'm not stealing a style. I'm just watching how they're captivating their audiences, and I'm like, okay, good gracious. So that's a lot of fun, and the growth that I've made personally is the growth of performing outside of Houston or outside of Texas, which has been a lot of fun. Where I've been able to take, my silly teacher parent storytelling set, if you will, and go venture across the nation, whether it's for the World Series of Comedy or just booked out of town show or for these other festivals that I've done. Just allowing myself to grow personally, it's been a lot of fun because, whether it's a one-off show or most recently I was in Arizona, I did 5 shows, which was super fun. And I got to meet a lot of cool people. Just watching myself grow from, 11 years ago telling a 5-minute story to get a drive-by heckle. And now just being able to, I think I've done more out-of-state shows than I've done Houston local shows, and that's perfectly okay. I love traveling and I love it.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Yeah. And I have no ill intention towards any of the.
Yeah, but also like you live outside of the you know, you
Yeah.
live far from the
Yeah,
city.
out in spring, yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard for you to travel like all the time.
Oh,
Like pretty much, yeah, every day it's hard.
yeah. Yeah, but for some reason, flying so much faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Although I did discover that I did a show in Whitewood, South Dakota a few weeks ago, and very small airport. I think there was 4 gates, very small,
Wow.
and it was a legit airport. It wasn't just like a regional airport. And
I'm over here picturing just like one hangar,
yeah,
and that's
it's,
it.
it's actually yeah. So I fly into South Dakota, and I was able to get an Uber from the airport, and the drive was like an hour to Whitewood, and I do the show there, and my flight, because it was a Saturday performance, and I had to go back to work on Monday, so I flew out Sunday, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be easy. I'm gonna do like a 6 a.m. flight Sunday morning, get home by like 10. Cool. Nope. Because what I didn't realize is Whitewood, South Dakota is such a small community. There aren't Uber drivers in that area. Yeah, they're at the airport because that's an hour away towards more civilization, if you will. But there was no one in Whitewood. And I tried for like 45 minutes trying to get an Uber because it's not like Spring, Texas is like 25 minutes to Bush, which is fine. This was an hour away in South Dakota. I don't even know where I am. And I realized that Uber is not going to work. I don't even know how to hail a taxi. I don't even know where. I was so not going to the airport based off Uber. So luckily, the headliner, really cool guy, he was staying in the hotel room next to me, and I see his car still there, and I was like, all right. And I knock on his door, nothing. All right. Keep in mind, it's like 4 in the morning. And I wait like 20 more minutes, and I knock again, and all of a sudden I just hear shuffling around, and he opens the door, and he's just like, what? I was like, hey man, I hate to do this. I need to get to the airport. Uber doesn't exist in Whitewood, South Dakota. Could you drive me to the airport? And he was just like, yeah. So I have extreme gratitude towards this comedian. He gave me a ride to the airport. We actually had a really nice conversation. And when I get to the TSA check-in, the guy was just like, hey, where you going? I was like, oh, I'm going to Houston. And actually, my friend actually had to drive me because Uber isn't a thing. And all of a sudden, he's just like, we have Uber? They're like, dude, you're the TSA agent. Like, yeah, so that was a weird experience.
Uber. Is that like Frank? That's outside.
Uber? Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like I said, I have no ill intentions towards anyone for not like I love traveling. It'd be way cheaper to perform in Houston than flying all the time, but just love traveling.
What do you think it is though? Is it just that you living so far?
I don't think so.
Because I remember from when you first started to now,
Yeah.
you were a lot more different.
Yeah. Because
On stage, off stage, like every a lot of stuff. But that's everybody, you know. It's not just you.
Yeah.
And like you aren't the only one that I've seen from like comics that don't live inside of downtown that don't get booked here that often. I feel like that's a big thing too, because there's a lot of talent outside of downtown that we just don't get to see that often. Like there are comics that go to Axelrad that I don't see at the Riot or a Secret Group, you know,
Right.
and stuff like that. Same thing with Spring or Jive. I've seen some comics at Jive that I never see here in Houston.
Yeah.
You know, And that's just how it is sometimes. Some people just either they don't get recognized, or they don't put themselves out there for the recognition, or they just like they're just not good. It's weird.
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting because shout out to Gary from Secret Group. It feels like every time I see Gary, he's always so happy for something I just did, whether it's a Kenan Thompson show or just a World Series of Comedy.
Oh,
or,
he's happy with you. He's always depressed when he sees me.
yeah, because he'll say things where, you know, if I'm feeling, you know, a little down, that I'm doing a lot of like legit shows outside of Texas, and I don't know if it's just like,
Is he the only one
that's kind of like mention, hey, dude, you're crushing it outside of Texas. I'm like, I appreciate it.
I mean, you are though.
Well,
you are like you said.
I
You're doing all
appreciate
these out of town shows, and I feel like that makes you more of a professional comedian than the ones that do all these shows here inside, you know, of the city.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and
Because you're getting booked to do like different cities. It's crazy, man. I seeing your growth and seeing like you taking these opportunities and like knocking them out of the park. It's great. It's great to see.
appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Like, did you think that would happen when you first started?
No. So when I got back into stand up in what year is it now? 2023. So
Just 24.
oh my god, it is. And we're halfway through it too.
Pretty much.
Dude, my brain's so fried from teaching. When I got back into it in June of 2021, I did it for 6 months, and I did, you know, a lot of jive. I went to the Riot a few times. Never performed, just to check it out. Went to Secret Group and did a few things there, mainly the open mics, obviously. And then after 6 months, I was just like, all right, like, I've been doing the same mics, and this is obviously before the boom of open mics that we've had in the past 2 years. So the numbers were very limited. There was Darwin's, but they would always have sign up way too early. By the time I would get off work, go home, take care of my son, and then try and sign up, I would always be like number 35. So
yeah, I remember those days.
yeah. So I was at the Riot, and this is maybe like December, and I was just like, is this really what I want to do? And I just remember Brian walked up of the Riot, and Brian looked at me and he's like, Oneacre. I go, hey Brian, how you doing? Because we did Laptown's Funniest a few months prior, and all of a sudden he's just like, hey Oneacre, you want to do Unusual Suspects? And I was like, okay. He's like, cool, you'll be booked in like, I think it was maybe like January or February. So after 6 months, I was literally contemplating at a comedy club if I was going to not do it. And then Brian just offered me a booking for the Unusual Suspects show. And then I did that show, and it just kind of propelled from there. And yeah. So had it not been for that encounter, I probably would have continued for a little bit longer, but
like I said before, you actually being there, you know, got you booked.
yeah,
You physically being there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's half the battle for most of these, you know, mics or shows. Just being there
yeah,
will get you booked sometimes.
yeah. And I was just standing at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, a lot of people who've approached me about me traveling outside of the state, they always ask the same questions of, do I have an agent or do I have representation? I'm like, no, this is just, like, I literally tell them I've been very fortunate with a lot of the shows I've done, and I've never had an ego about performing outside of Texas. I've never once viewed myself as better than anyone because I'm doing a Kenan Thompson thing. Cool. The name's great. I'm still performing with other comics. I'm not headlining a show in Vegas. I'm just performing, and I've never had the mindset or mentality, because I was raised to not be insensitive jerk. Like my parents would not stand for that kind of mentality of just being like, oh, I'm better than you because I got booked on this show. So whenever people ask me like how do I keep getting these out of town shows, I just tell them the same thing. I just go through the Facebook group page, or I'm also part of Dallas Fort Worth. I'm part of San Antonio's one, Austin, a few out of town shows, and I just submit. And if I get selected, cool. And then I got involved with the World Series of Comedy because of a post on the Austin Comedy Facebook page. And I just submitted a video. And my first year doing World Series of Comedy, I only did one performance in Plano, Texas, and then got to go to Las Vegas for the main event show. And then last year I did 7 out of 10 shows. So, I mean, I just been very fortunate with just scrolling through Facebook pages and seeing a comedy festival or a show that needs, and I just submit, and if I get selected, cool, and if not, okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I need to be doing right now, just submitting for different festivals. I don't.
Yeah.
Part of it is like I don't think that I'm good enough for it. And another part of it is like I don't think my tape is good enough.
Oh, okay.
You know, I have some tapes now that I can submit, but I'm also just like, why even try either way? They're not gonna pick me.
And Joe, that's what we were talking about earlier, buddy, about trying.
Yeah.
Because you're just having the self-doubt. Just try.
No, I've tried a couple times, just never happened.
Okay.
So now I'm just like, okay, well, who cares?
You should
Start trying.
Yeah, and submit because last year I told everyone in the Houston scene that I could talk to. I'm like, dude, you gotta submit for the World Series of Comedy, because not only do you get to perform across the nation if you get selected, but the main event is in Las Vegas, and you get to go regardless if you're performing or not, because it's part of the registration fee, which is awesome. And then you can just chill in Vegas, and they have Wise Guys Comedy Club. They have all these open mics around the city. And the only person who believed me, because whatever reason they thought I was lying about it was weird. The only person who listened was Cade Kapowski, and he actually
got on a festival.
Yeah, him and I met up in Vegas at the main event, and we hung out for like a day and a half, and it was great. And he's the only one. I know this because a lot of people who I spoke to after last year's Vegas thing, I was like, yo, Kapowski was at Vegas. It was awesome. They're like, oh, we thought you were lying. I was like, why would I lie about?
For real though, why?
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny.
What's the point?
And now hopefully this season, some of them signed up, and and plus the owner Joe is such a great guy, and him and I have like really bonded, and kind of like a mentorship, and he just a overall great guy. The vice president Jason, super cool guy. He's been very supportive, and he gives feedback like professionally. So he's given me good feedback in the 3 years I've been doing this, and just a overall fun environment to be part of. And you just sign up online, and that's why I got involved.
What's been one of your fun experiences in like different cities?
Oh boy, there's a lot, but I'll just pick a few short ones. My favorite, because I roasted this woman / the festival's least favorite, because I roasted this woman, was in Boston last year. And I was just doing my bit, and all of a sudden this woman in the first row just kept like shouting out. She wasn't heckling, but she was just interrupting. And I just kept looking at her, and I was just like, all right, that's cool, ma'am. And all of a sudden I would just go right back into it. But it got to the point where I was like, 2 minutes into my set and she interrupted and usually the staff would come over and tell her to be quiet. That didn't happen until after I said what I shouldn't have said. And I was just like, oh, that's cool, ma'am. Enjoy your fake tits. And yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's on film. It's on my Instagram. And as soon as I said that, the audience, half of them were laughing because they heard her interrupt, and the other half was just like, "How dare you?" And I was just like, "Yo, calm down. I'm from Texas." And all of a sudden she goes, "I'm from Texas," and I was like, "Ma'am, then you should know about Southern hospitality. Just shut your face." And she just like, "Well," and I was just like, "God," and I just, and as soon as I said fake tits and did crowd work during a competition, I was like, all right, well, I'm not advancing. And after the show, I just walked around Boston for like 40 minutes, just like, because it wasn't ultra bad. It's not like I called her like derogatory names. I just mentioned her tits look fake. But I was just walking around. I was like, man, I spent this money to fly to Boston, and then I was going to have a good set. And then this woman kept interrupting me, and I tried to do crowd work, and it worked for half of them. The other half hated me. So I was just walking around Boston. When I came back to the hotel we were performing at, Jason, the VP, walked in. He's like, Oneacre, have you talked to Joe yet? And I was like, no. He's like, you might want to talk to Joe. And I walked over to Joe, and he just looked at me. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, Joe, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, it was funny, but not during a competition. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And like I said, it was just an off the hand comment, and it wasn't that severe, but he was just like, Oneacre, I love you, buddy, but you cannot, I'll say, because I'm the president of the company, I don't care, I'm not competing, but you should control yourself. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was fun. And then there's just been other fun moments of a few months ago, I was in Colorado, and I was headliner for a comedy festival, which was the first time I ever headlined for a festival. So that was super fun. And my brother and his girlfriend showed up. And that was the first time my brother ever saw me perform live. He's seen a few clips on Instagram, and to watch my brother cry laughing made me so happy, because he's the middle brother, and it was his job as, children to like make sure my life was like miserable by like bullying me in front of my friends and blah blah. But now that we're older, him and I have like definitely bonded like brothers. So to watch him cry laughing while I'm talking about me getting stuck on our parents' 2-story house trying to sunbathe, and then I knocked over the ladder and I got trapped on the roof for 3.5 hours. My brother is just crying with happy tears, and he's just like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm like, yo, that's my brother. He wasn't there. Ask mom and dad. And oh man, like, just that was like top 5 moments of my 4.5 years, was watching my older brother laugh at his little brother's jokes. And that made me super happy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Just stuff like that.
That's awesome. All right. So we're out of time.
Okay.
But do you have any shows or anything you want to plug, like your IG, TikTok?
Yeah. So on all social media platforms, it's the #1 acre _comedy. That's my name, Oneacre. Not trying to be egotistical, like I'm number one. So the #1 acre comedy for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz. And then upcoming shows, the only 2 that I'm aware of. June 22nd, I'll be in Ohio recording a comedy album for the World Series of Comedy. So that's exciting. And then July 6th, 10th, I'll be in Los Angeles for a comedy festival.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, man, congrats on all your success.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's great to see from when I first met you to now. to see how much you've grown, and man, it's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at Brass Tap was the first time I met you with
Brass Tap
that pretentious police officer with his girlfriend or wife. For the record, y'all, don't do a drug joke in front of a cop.
Yeah, don't.
And then you came up and just, oh man, me and Mondragon were just like, yo, Joe's just roasting this dude. Because he literally sat like this the entire show. And then his wife, girlfriend, whoever she was trying to laugh, but she was so like intimidated by her husband just that she didn't laugh out. Oh, I just remember you just, oh, that was so much fun.
I miss that place. I'm not gonna lie, I do miss Brass Tap. It's gone. Well, the place is still there, but they changed the name.
Oh, okay.
It's called Dailies now.
Dailies.
Yeah, Dailies Sports Bar.
Okay.
Same owner, same everything, just a different name.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you always know where to find me. IG, TikTok, X.com, at the Jokosity, YouTube. What else? Do you have any shows coming up? June 8th, come through to North Shepherd Brewing, 8 o'clock. Headlining is Jeff Joe, featuring is Kate Vance. We also got Michael Vargas and Adam Estupinan on the show. I'm always at Axelrad every Monday, Sunday, and first Friday from 8 to 11, and then equal parts every first and third Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Eric, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
I know we've been planning this for a while. Finally, it happened.
Hey, it was fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.